Representative Jesse White. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning, Marty.
How are you?
I'd be better if we could have gotten this done about 2 years ago, but here we are, so.
Yeah, it got crushed, though, in the Senate, right?
Well, here's what happened, and I think it's really important that people understand what this is all about. What we're in County is almost an unavoidable end result of a disastrous and really fundamentally flawed process. We went in about a year and a half ago to start really looking at a lot of this reassessment stuff. And the best way to describe the reassessment mess in Pennsylvania, statewide, it's like, you know how they use the analogy of when you peel back an onion and different layers. This is like peeling back an onion, and every layer smells, and then when you get to the middle of the onion, there's like a dirty diaper in there. I mean, that's how bad this is. What we've learned is that this is really the system is so flawed from the very beginning that nothing is going to make sense coming out of it. So what we're trying to do is tackle the fundamental problems with that system, and unfortunately, we've made some progress in the legislature. We had a bill that I had written that went through. We got it passed by the House. The Senate amended it and made it unconstitutional in a couple of different ways, which then allowed the governor to veto it. It was his first and only veto to date. But one of the good things that came out of that was we put together kind of a two-part task force. And I know everybody rolls their eyes and says, oh, great, a task force, big deal. But this was the first time that we really were able to get all the stakeholders and people there aren't many people that really get this. We've been getting them all in a room for the same time for the last few months, almost every week. And the good news is we've made real progress. The bad news is the problem is a lot worse than we thought.
Well, Jesse, not to be cynical, but I have to be. You've had decades to fix this. I mean,
I've had 5 years.
Okay, you've had 5 years.
You're right, and you know what we learned? That's a great point. We got back in 2009 is when we did the Legislative Budget Finance Committee report on this. Because you got to realize, this is a system that there isn't a whole lot of history on. And that what we found is most counties, when they reassess, they hold their nose, they do the best job they think they can do, and then they're like, thank God we don't have to deal with this for years. So you never really got around to identifying the problems, much less fixing them. So what we were able to do is we got this 220-page report. It's available online. It is not an easy read. But we got this report 2 years ago, okay, about a year and a half ago. We took the recommendations in that report. And
how can you take the recommendations of the 220-page report, for God's sakes?
Well, because they're boiled down into like a 20-page summary. Marty, listen, as much as you would love to be able to boil this down to make it really simple, it really isn't. And this isn't just a politician trying to get around this. I've been doing some really dorky lawyer reading for the last year on this stuff. And I'm telling you, there's a reason that there's not been an easy fix to this is because it's not easy.
Well, a lot of folks would argue, including myself, that the reason why it hasn't been fixed is because guys like you representing your constituents don't want them to pay new taxes. So why put in a uniform system around the state which would order assessments in counties that haven't had them for 40 years and, in essence, anger everybody the way everyone in Pittsburgh is angered, and they would kick all of you out of office?
Well, the reason you have to do it is because it has to be fair.
Yeah, but hold on. Address my point, Jesse.
I am addressing
State leaders around the state don't want this because they don't want assessments in their county, because they don't want their... I know someone that owns a piece of property in Butler County. This is a fact. Rich in natural gas, the assessed value right now on a piece of property rich in natural gas that's close to 100 acres, $9,000. Come on.
Well, and you brought up a great point. One of the issues we're dealing with is how do you deal with properties that are being sold at face value with mineral rights incorporated in, because under the law, you can't take mineral rights into consideration because they're not taxable. So you right there just touched on it, and that has been a relatively last 5 years or so development.
Yeah, and then add to that in the same property, hold on.
Let me answer your original question first. To answer your question is we have to do this because in Washington County, for example, where I represent a part of, and there was a court-ordered reassessment down there.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff came about in that we weren't trying to stop the reassessment forever because we do need to reassess. Because what we've done is we've lost sight of what this is supposed to be. A reassessment by law is designed to be revenue neutral. It should not mean a tax increase. One of the biggest problems that we found is that school districts and municipal governments, but mainly school districts, didn't follow the law in that they didn't adjust the millage rate back down to offset the increased value of a mill.
And that nobody enforced the law when they broke the law by ripping off the taxpayers.
You just hit the nail right on the head, Marty. And that has had me furious for about a year and a half now. And one of the things we tried to put through an amendment when we were doing the budget this year, I had an amendment that would have made it that if a school district had seen a windfall as a result of not following the law, following a reassessment, they would be penalized 200% of their windfall in state funding. Basically, it would say, don't do it because you're going to get screwed in the long run.
Yeah, but again, you want my basic question, you're a stand-up guy. Jesse, the fact is state leaders all over the state don't want some uniform assessment because they know that their constituents are getting hammered tax-wise. And they don't want to deal with it. Huh?
I'm going to shoot one hole in your argument. The amendments in the bill that we had, it was House Bill 1661, the amendments that really was the final thing that pushed these reassessments through before our task force could finish and get these recommendations into law, was put in those amendments were written by an Allegheny County senator. So you can't blame state leaders from all over the place. This happened in our own backyard. There were 2 senators from Allegheny County that were vocally opposed to our bill. And so to say that it isn't state leaders, that's ridiculous. I was able to get our bill out of the House with a unanimous vote. So people, because what we heard from people is, yeah, we did this a few years ago. It was a disaster. We don't ever want to go through that again.
Can you hold on? Can you hang through a break, Jesse?
Absolutely.
Jesse White will hang with us. 866-391-1020. 866-391-1020. He's here live for you. So, the assessment nightmare continues. Jesse White, state rep, joining us. Jesse, the quandary for me, and I'm guessing for you as well, because I know you do care about this stuff, you're actually very passionate about helping folks out, is that, regardless of how well you folks think you've tried for 5 years, nothing's been done. So now we have people in Pittsburgh holding these bizarre assessments. You have to give me that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this was an almost totally predictable result from a really screwed up process. And, I think what we need to focus on is what can we do? And I think that's kind of what you've been saying. What can we do to try to stop this or fix it? Short-term, long-term. I'm going to give you 2 things that need to be done.
Right.
Short-term is there is a bill. It's my bill that I wrote over a year ago, House Bill 166. It is sitting. It has been drafted. It's sitting. It is a temporary moratorium on all court-ordered reassessments, statewide, uniform. That bill could be moved out of committee, passed, and signed by the governor in a week. It really could. I don't want to hear, anytime there's something that's politically not, they don't want, what it is, Marty. There's, sometimes, and this is what has hurt this issue for years. You don't want the powers of one party don't want the other party to get credit. And I'm not saying,
come on.
No, wait a minute. I'm going to give you a perfect example. My bill, House 166, and it sucks. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's the reality. My bill, Bill 166, sat there for almost a year. You know what bill ended up getting passed? A bill that they took my exact language, gave it to a Republican member, and at my request, because I wanted to see it get done. And that was the bill that moved because it was a Republican bill and a Republican majority. What I'm saying is, that's fine, because if that's the way it has to happen, that's the way it has to happen. I don't care who gets credit. But that's the reality we're dealing with. As a result, my original bill is still sitting there. It can be passed, signed.
What would your bill do, Jesse?
My bill was a temporary moratorium on all court-ordered reassessments. And what it did was it went hand in hand with the long-term solution.
Well, what do you suggest to the people in Pittsburgh, thousands of them and hundreds of thousands in Allegheny County that by the spring will be shafted? What do you suggest they do between now and then?
Well, I suggest that they call the appropriate people to try to get this bill passed. That's the immediate, that's the Band-Aid. Okay? If we're going to address this as a serious injury, that's the Band-Aid, right? The surgery is going to be whenever, I'd say probably within less than a month, this task force that has been meeting for a long time now, these are real experts, okay? This isn't political posturing. We're going to issue a report of what the recommended statutory changes should be. And it's stuff that I know what's going to happen. You're going to look at it and say, this is crap, this is all math, and this isn't going to solve the problem. But it's the best solution there is out there because if we don't fix the underlying statistical mathematical problems that sound boring and stupid and unrelated, that's the beginning to really fixing it.
Well, first of all, none of this is going to get done before the thousands of people in Pittsburgh get completely screwed.
That's why that's why we wanted the moratorium, Marty. That was the whole point. We're like, no one, and I've been saying this for a year. You'd be insane to do a reassessment under this current system. It's terrible.
Hold on one second.
We're never going to get a good result.
Hold on, Jesse. Jesse White joining us. George in Mount Lebanon. Thanks for hanging in there, George. Go ahead, jump in here. George. George. He was on hold for so long he passed
Maybe
out.
he opened his reassessment bill and passed out.
He probably did, man. Hold on. Adele in Squirrel Hill, thanks for your patience. Go.
Marty, in the dictionary, assess says to estimate efficiently the value of property for taxation, to evaluate to determine the amount. I am what's labeled a senior citizen. My house is 100 years old. It went up 3 times. I can't even get downtown. I have called till I'm blue in the face. There's nobody in the city of Pittsburgh. They all tell you, we want seniors to remain in their homes. There's nobody to help you. Lawyers want a fortune to go to help you, which we don't have. We're on Social Security. Is there anybody out there to help senior citizens that they say, stay in your home? I called one man from the city. They told me that he would help. He didn't ask my name. He did not ask me my income. He said, where do you live? When I told you, he said, get a reverse mortgage and bang the phone on me.
So listen to this, Jesse White.
That's what's going on
This is what's going
there.
on out. This is a frightening thing that's happening. So, Jesse, you could talk about reports that are 220 pages and committees and votes that didn't come together because of party politics. But what you have are folks like Adele sitting in Squirrel Hill right now, shafted and nowhere to turn. I mean, what do you tell her to do? Honestly, Jesse. I'm not trying to lay all this on you, by the way.
Seriously, where do you go? They tell you, seniors, stay in your home. You know, I would sell it to Judge Whittick for what he put it up for, 3 times as much as it was. You know, and the last time I went down there, when they raised me, I got to town. The girl was sitting in the reception feeding her face with a pizza. There was nowhere to sit. People were lined up in the halls on the floor. And then bells were going off. There was an alarm, a fire alarm. I'm looking, what are we supposed to do? Nobody would leave because they didn't want to lose their place in line. Employees weren't leaving, and bells were ringing. That's what goes on.
Again, by the way, Jesse's been working hard on this and really, really cares. He's one of my friends and actually very passionate about his work. I'm not here to pick on him, but at least he's honest about it. Go ahead.
Right, and you're right, and Marty, and you know, and hearing what Adele has to say. I mean, this is, you know, when we were running around the Capitol in June like absolute idiots trying to get this stuff passed, this is what we were trying to avoid. Adele's story is exactly the kind of thing that we were trying to avoid.
Yeah, but you had 5 years to avoid it. 5 years to avoid it and couldn't avoid it, Jess. Not just, this is our lack of leadership in government in America today, Jesse. You understand why people would be disgusted.
Well, let me just get this in, Marty.
Go ahead.
I had spent 3 days on the phone. I got through finally. What that woman went through, they told me they didn't have any proof that I had called.
That's
terrible.
It is
I was
terrible.
asking if there's someone there could help me because I can't get into town.
Hey, Adele, can you hang with me for a minute? I got to put you on hold. Can you hold on, Adele?
Sure.
All right. Jesse, can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
All right, I want to do something here that's important. Rich Fitzgerald calling in, sworn in tomorrow. I hope you have, I'm not going to see you tomorrow night, but I hope you have a wonderful night. I really do. It's a great moment in your life, and we're all very proud of you, okay?
Thank you, Marty.
I really do. It's very exciting.
Coming right into the fire, that's for sure.
But that being said, I have Adele on the line, and I have a stack of emails, and I know you've heard this, and you're an action guy. Fitz, you got to do something for these folks who are going online. Adele, tell him what happened to you in terms of 3 days to get help. Go ahead.
I've called, and each time you spend hours and hours. When you finally get through, they tell you they don't have proof. If you've called, they have nothing down there. So 3 times I've tried to see if somebody would get in touch with me possibly, because I'm in my 80s and I can't even get into town to fight this.
And Fitz, it says that folks can't get any sort of verification that they filed for this hearing, informal review, online. So they'll go online 3 times in 3 days. This woman was on hold for 1 hour and 27 minutes. Rich Fitzgerald, we've got to do better for people.
Well, absolutely. First of all, let me applaud Jesse White. Representative White has been a champion of trying to get a moratorium passed. And actually, the House did pass a moratorium. Yeah. And I give the representative, he did. He stepped aside and said, look, I'll let the Republicans take credit, and that's fine. Let's do this in a bipartisan manner. We need the Senate to move. That's number one. We need to get the state Senate to move this bill out of committee and get it passed. That way we can have a statewide moratorium on singled-out reassessments. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to need a lot of helpers on this. I'm going to stop the reassessment, but I have to get the school district and the city who have been driving these bills out, who went to court, both of them, to try to hurry this up and get this out before I took office. I need to get the school board to back off their lawyer, Mr. Weiss, and I need the city to support the fact that we're going to use the base year numbers. We're going to get together right after I get sworn in, literally a day or two later, and I'm going to convene all of the players that we can get together to try to stop this. Because you're absolutely right, Marty. It's a disaster. And I don't think the judge, I'm going to give him a little benefit of the doubt. I don't think he intended for that to happen. But those of us who have been through this system know that's what's going to happen when you try to do a mass appeal of 600,000 parcels all at once.
Okay, hold on. Answer her question. Answer her question, Fitz, about people who won't answer the phones and you can't get confirmation online. You knew this train was coming. You should have had 100 people in there ready to help people when this thing blew up. Because you knew.
So you want us to hire more people.
I want you to do something.
Taxes.
No, I want you. I want you to get the people sitting around in the Parks Department or wherever, because you yourself said, when I start, I'm going to get people that are sitting around all day to work. So take the people that are sitting around all day and put them in an office to help people that need help. How about that?
Can I tell you how they did the assessment?
I don't want this system to go forward. You don't understand.
No, I understand that people won't answer phones for people like Adele.
First of all, if we've got 150,000 people all calling at once, there aren't enough people down there to do it. The system gets overloaded.
There aren't 150,000 appeals sent out, Fitz. You're really exaggerating the number.
150,000 people in the city that got notices last week. Now, I'm not saying every single one of them are calling, but believe me, the system is getting overloaded, both at the city. I've been to the town hall meeting, the neighborhood meetings. People are screaming. People are mad. It's a system that does not work.
Get more people to answer the phones.
Well, you know what? How much taxes do you want to pay for that, Marty?
I don't know, less than the taxes you raised before we even had this issue.
So now you want to lower taxes, but where does it come from, Marty?
I want you to take the people you told me were sitting around, not doing their work.
People were sitting around.
You sure did.
No, I didn't.
You said in my studio, and you told me that when you start, you're going to get people that are sitting around not doing their jobs, and you're going to get them off.
Those people that are going to work for the county will be working. That's
right on. We'll get those people to work.
They are.
Get somebody to answer the phones down there.
So when the snowstorm hits tomorrow,
so if you keep making,
we're going to move people off of public works so they don't salt the roads, so that they can be there to answer appeals.
So this is the best we're going to get from our new county executive, that you can't get people to answer the phones.
No, that's not what I said. What I'm saying is, how many people do you want there to answer the phone?
More than are there now. Would be nice.
What we got to do, Marty, is stop the system.
Yes, Adele, please. Yes, go. Please tell. Yes, of course. Yeah.
I watched these beige cars with the orange lights in my district. I watched for one, came across the street from my house. There was a man driving, and he kept the motor running. There was a woman on the passenger side with a clipboard and a pen. She never rolled down the window. She never got out of the car. She looked across the street at my house for less than 2 minutes and went down the street that way. To me, it was a one-glance estimate. It was a one-glance assessment. If you think that's legal, I don't.
And also, regarding the offices there, I have several emails here from folks who said this woman, she submitted 3 dates and 3 times online. And was told, a representative spoke with her and said the online request system was not interfacing with the information the call center representatives had in the computer system. Hence, no online request was on record. Fitz, you can argue about raising taxes and you don't have the people all you want, but that's not acceptable.
Well, what I'm telling you is, first of all, I'm not in office yet, so I appreciate you blaming me, Marty, for how many.
I'm not. I'm asking you to get more people down there.
When?
I'm not. Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
You start tomorrow.
Well, first of all,
get your family in there. That's 40 people right there. Go ahead.
First of all, the system is unworkable. So you can sit there and rant all you want about get more people, get it right. You're never going to get it right. That's the problem with the whole system. So the judge, it'd be like the judge ordering you to run a 4-minute mile. He can order you all he wants, but guess what? Physically, you're unable to do it. That's what we've got here. This is never going to be right. And that's the problem. So the judge can make all the decrees he wants, and all the notices can go out, and you can help people all they want, but this is a disaster. This is chaos, and it's never going to work.
You can't get your people to make sure that the computer interfaces with the assessment office folks who are calling in there. You can't make sure that happens.
Well, there's certain things I'm sure we're going to try to improve on.
Right.
But understand that this system, we haven't had an assessment in 10 years. So now all of a sudden people are getting reassessed.
Right.
And
it's overwhelming.
Upset,
yeah.
mad, calling in. And oh, by the way, the judge has put in place a system with 2 weeks of deadlines in it, which is normally 3 months. Normally you have till March 31st to file your appeal. Now you're getting until, an informal appeal by the middle of January, and then by February 7th, a formal appeal. So in the worst possible year of a reassessment, with everybody getting notices, the judge is ordering everybody to do it in a quicker time frame that often gets done. Yeah, you know what? Everybody wants to move to Washington County at this point, and Butler County, because they don't go through this madness.
They don't. And I also agree with what you're saying. It's overwhelming. There are thousands of people trying to get through, but there's no way that you folks didn't know this was coming. I would have thought there would have been more people to try to answer phones. I think that's a reasonable request. This woman waited for 1 hour and 27 minutes to just get someone to say, we can't help you. I think that's frustrating. I know you don't like the system. You've said this for years, and I agree with you. But you also have to agree with me that there has to be a way to at least somehow facilitate a better way to get the computers to work and folks to answer phones.
Oh, absolutely. And we want to help people. Believe me, when I get in there, I'm going to make sure that we give every bit of assistance we can so that people can file their appeals, people can get their taxes lowered. That's what it's been about all along. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But when Rich Fitzgerald or County Council cannot all by ourselves solve this problem. We do need help from our partners in Harrisburg. We need help from our local elected officials, all 130 municipalities and 43 school districts, to work together to stop this crazy system. And that's what we're going to work towards.
First of all, really, again, good luck tomorrow night. It's a very exciting time for you. Number two, you're a stand-up guy. You always respond. And I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your caring. Thanks, Fitz.
We're going to keep fighting it, Marty.
All right, buddy.
Got my word on that.
We're on it. Adele, we're on it, my dear.
I wish that they would send out people that are really assessors
I
to
agree.
walk and look around instead of one glance from their car.
I agree. She makes perfect sense. Your call made my day, my dear. It really did.
Thank you. Have a healthy New Year.
All right. Jesse White's going to hang around. Wow. By the way, I'm very good friends with Rich Fitzgerald, and I appreciate his passion. And you know what? I'm angry about this. Everybody is. They need to get more people answering the phones. Bottom line. And by the way, they have 35 hearing rooms. 35 hearing rooms for assessments. They do not have close to that many hearing officers. That astutely pointed out by Mr. Shumway. Jesse White, thanks for hanging through that fight, Jesse. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Ultimately, what do we need to do as soon as possible?
Okay, great point. First of all, I want to address one thing that Adele said, talking about the assessor driving down the street or doing whatever. That's when this report comes out with these very easy recommendations in the next few weeks. That's one of the big things we tackle is assessor training standards. Mm-hmm. So that exact issue is being addressed. Number one, just want to get that out there. Number two, I think that what you could do, Marty, is I think that you need to do kind of what Fitz and some of us are trying to do is we're trying to treat the disease, not the symptoms. We understand that the call systems are a disaster, but there's going to be, if we don't fix this system, this is going to happen 3 more times when the next 3 stages come out.
It's going to get a lot worse when the county assessments go out.
Right.
Yeah.
So our point is, right now, and you said, why hasn't anything been done in the past? Well, the answer is simple. You might not want to acknowledge it, but people didn't care when it didn't affect them.
It's absolutely true. Nobody cared until they opened the envelope, quite frankly. Yeah.
Exactly. So when, a year ago, when I had a hearing down in Washington County and Rich Fitzgerald, who was, had just come off the council at that point, came down and gave impassioned testimony that we were able to take back to Harrisburg, no one in Allegheny County cared because it didn't hit them yet. But now people are paying attention, and we need to be looking to treat the disease, not the symptoms. Here's how you do it. Short term, we need to get a commitment from the leadership in the House and the Senate and the governor's office that they will pass House Bill 166, which is the moratorium, immediately. That stops the bleeding, okay? Then we need to go and take these recommendations that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. They are well vetted, expert discussed. I mean, these are going to work to really make this a better process. Okay, we're going to need public support to get those passed into law, and I will come onto your show in the studio for an entire day and explain them from top to bottom that anybody wants to listen, because it's that important. Okay, that's number two. We need to address the anti-windfall issue, and this goes to what one of the things I think you could be doing. Instead of getting on here and saying state and local leaders, we need to be looking beyond that, and I think Fitz touched on it. You got to look in Allegheny and Washington County. You have the same thing. You have school boards with lawyers driving these reassessments. Now think about this for a minute. If the reassessments are supposed to be revenue neutral, and the school districts are so hurting for money, why would they be spending tens of thousands of dollars on legal fees to force a process that, if they follow the law, won't make them any richer? It's a backdoor tax increase.
They want more money.
That's
Jesse?
a backdoor tax increase. So what you need to start doing is, you can call and yell at Rich Fitzgerald all you want, but he gets it. He's not the one that needs to hear it. It needs to be, you need to be talking about the solicitors for these school boards. In Washington County, the firm that pushed their reassessment, they made over $30,000 of taxpayer money from a school district that was cutting electives this year. Those are the people we need to be looking at.
I'm on it, Jesse.
But House Bill 166, you need to be talking to Mike Turzai. You need to be talking to leadership in the Senate. You need to be talking to the governor's office. If they can force through all these other things they've done, voter ID and all these other proposals that have very little real benefit for people, this is something that can help people today.
Jesse, thank you.
Today.
Gotta go.
Thank you, Marty.
Very good. Be talking to him again.